We'll start with you, Aamir, Raza. Thank you for being here. My first question would be about the film. Does it reflect exactly what happened to you? Is there anything you wish to add or to explain?
First of all, thank you very much for the festival organizers, IF and GIFA, inviting me for this prestigious and important festival and give me a chance to share my experience. I am very happy to be here. Thank you. Film Tiger has brought me here. This is based on my life story. And there has been two phases to bring this story and share this story with the world. Without Baby Milk Action, this story would not have come before public. In Pakistan, I worked with Tracy Wagner-Rizvi at the network. Tracy really helped me and worked with me in preparing the report with my evidence. And I knew about the network because of the director of Doctors. I met IPFAN code expert Elenice Allen, who scrutinized my documents very carefully with other IPFANers. And they knew that Nestle was doing from their monitoring, but they did not know whether to trust me. A Nestle salesman who had come to them for help, I had answered so many questions to convince them that I was a genuine person. The second dedicated people I met were the producer Andy Patterson and the director Dennis Stanwyck. It is very important to come here in Geneva to Switzerland because here are two big offices. One is WHO, the World Health Organization, and the other is Nestle. I took a trip down to the lake to see the center of Nestle empire. WHO said 1.5 million babies died every year because of they are not breastfeed and they have marketing the code of breast milk substitute. And I was here in Geneva to explain what really goes on inside the companies and when they were marketing their formula in Pakistan. If WHO had given me more than 2 minutes, how different could have my life. Have WHO and other international organizations changed? UNICEF, the Human Rights Council, what happened now when their whistleblower asked for help from these organizations who focus on the health and welfare of the children? Do you help the whistleblowers when they try to help you in your mission? My father was not a professional lawyer. He helped me and a lot and draft a legal notice and start a legal fight with Nestle. I cannot forget Dr. Diamond Emmanuel, who helped me the efforts of bottle feeding to me and helped me with the information to finalize the legal notice. My mother supported me even in her last moments when she had not seen me since I left Pakistan. After the death of my mother, the person who looked after the family is my father passed away. Just 3 months later, this is very hard. The whole family is in shock. This film is tribute to my father and my mother. You saw 6 kids in the film, real babies who were filmed when they made. This is not just a story. This is still going on. I have to come to Geneva again to tell you about it second time and to ask you this question. Why is still happening and how will we stop it? This is all I would like to say, and thank you very much for coming, and thank you, merci beaucoup.
First, I'd like to congratulate my colleague from Nestle for having been so courageous, and today I feel less lonely, knowing that there were other people working for Nestle who had the courage, to actually go against the company's practices. I'd like to also thank the organizers and IPFAN for having invited me here this evening, and I take it as a real honor. There are two individuals who are just completely the opposite one from the other. And we've actually experienced the same story, and we met this evening for the very first time. So Aamir is a man, I am a woman. Aamir was working at the very end of the food chain by selling products. I was working very much upstream, at the company headquarters in the empire Aamir mentioned a few minutes ago. Well, I discovered a few certain things that were totally dysfunctional in the food safety issue. And perhaps I didn't tell you, but you were responsible. Yes. What I didn't tell you is that I was recruited as assistant VP and a member of of Nestle's top management and in charge of food safety. Actually, the babies actually were choking on these baby rusks, and so I asked that nobody could have known about it, but the melamine incident in 2008, we could have stopped it from happening, but they didn't. Accusations. I mean, what do they say about it? Yeah, thank you for asking that question. Highly relevant question. So as you were able to see for yourselves in the film, they said, okay, problem. I think there is a real problem with the company's management.
Merci.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm Mike Brady, Baby Milk Action, and it's great to be here. It's great to see this film on the screen. It's great to be sitting next to Aamir with his daughter Shabi in the audience. And it's great to see a packed theatre. There was a question earlier, is this film having an impact? It's already started to have an impact because we have all you here seeing this film, hearing about these issues, and I hope telling other people about the issues and telling them to go and see this film. But it's been a long road to get here. I first met Aamir in Germany. And here we have one of the magical things about cinema, because I am in this film, in the scenes in Germany, played by the wonderful Mariam Diabo, who represents the different IBFANers who helped Aamir in his mission from Tracy Wagner-Ritzvi in Pakistan to Andreas Adelberger, who was the main contact in Germany, to Patty Rundle, who worked so much with Andy as well to get this film made and has been involved in this campaign far longer than I have. Aamir said that he had all these questions when he came to us. He came with his documents, and he had to convince us to trust him. Well, we looked to the evidence, and we weren't just looking at Aamir's evidence, because the network in Pakistan had done its own monitoring. It had done a survey shortly before Aamir came along to them, where they investigated practices in 33 cities. And they found there were promotional things in hospitals. They found that gifts were being given to health workers and so on. But they didn't have the proof from inside the company. And this is why Aamir's evidence was the smoking gun. And it's not a problem that's gone away. Save the Children did a survey in Pakistan in 2012. And they also found medical reps were meeting a large proportion of the health workers. They were being given gifts. Mothers were being encouraged to bottle feed. This film is wonderful and it is accurate. And this has been one of the great things to work on this project, is that the way Andy has listened to us. And some things where we say, well, we don't have evidence to support that. In other places, we can be stronger. Go stronger on this because there's substantiation for it. And Nestle isn't here today, but they have responded to this film in a public statement on their website. They say, oh, it's an old story. They say, oh, we have policies. But they also say they are not going to sue over this film. If they could sue, I'm sure they would, but they know this is factual. And the film now, it becomes part of the campaign. You've come to see it, but we need the media to report on it as well. There was Nestle water. It is gone. If you want an action you can do when you leave this theatre, boycott Nestle. You have wonderful tap water here in Switzerland. One of the things that happened because of Aamir's mission and the publicity in 2000 was a law was introduced in Pakistan in 2002. Please encourage everyone to go and see this film.
No media coverage in Pakistan? Can thousands of babies die and no media do anything?
Media coverage when we launched my book, Milking Profit, in '99, only 2 or 3 newspapers covered the story. But
Actually saw that is, the problem. I mean, we can't criticize the wolf for eating the lamb, because that Nestle doesn't just sell its products in Pakistan, but in Colombia there are different companies that actually manufacture the milk. But I just want to remind you that not that long ago, a few months in fact, the Swiss courts considered that there was, because 8 trade unionists, maybe 6, 8 trade union members in Colombia are working at Nestle's, have been assassinated. 8 or 9 trade unionists from the Nestle companies were assassinated. But in Colombia,
that are concerned about Nestle, and there are problems across the whole range of its businesses, like treatment of dairy farmers, treatment of coffee farmers, the issue of child labour and child slavery in the cocoa supply chain. And the response from the company and other corporations that are challenged is often very familiar. It's like, we have a policy that does not allow this. So you saw in the film, the charter, it says we don't do this, or we do this. They say we have our policies. They will conduct an audit. They did this in the case of the Pakistan. They paid for the audit. They set the terms of conditions. They didn't allow the auditors to actually follow Aamir's document chain. They didn't allow them to talk to NGOs, only Nestle staff. And it just said, oh, there were a few things wrong. And then Nestle says, oh, we had an audit. Aamir's evidence was found to be bogus. So
I'm from Pakistan, and I'm also someone who worked for Nestle. I would like to, first of all, thank the filmmakers to bring us such a courageous personal story, which exposes the atrocities of multinational companies in a way that it shows how we should hold them accountable. I just have these questions for the filmmakers. I'm curious, were there any Pakistanis who were involved as storytellers in the crew? And it's my observation that most of the cast in the movie is Indian, and it seemed to me that it's shot in India as well. Please tell me if my impression is correct.
Crimes of a similar nature by a multinational corporation in several countries. Is there any tribunal that has jurisdiction over this? Is it possible that some of these things fall under crimes against humanity?
the Convention on the Rights of the Child and UNICEF's lawyers have said that the marketing code that the companies should be abiding by, which they should do even if it hasn't been introduced into legislation, that has force in international law through the Convention on the Rights of the Child. They don't even take the actions they can take under the integrity measures, and Nestle uses it as a smokescreen. They take part in joint events with the UN Global Compact. They're a patron sponsor to these events. They have their reports held up as models for other corporations when they're not reflecting reality.
Nelson, I'm a journalist. I have two questions. First, to the organizer. If it weren't for Nestle, Did you invite WHO or representative of WHO? And a representative of WHO invited? No, they declined the invitation.
Since 1997, I have been covering Nestle, with the result that I have been formally declared persona non grata and excluded from Nestle's press conferences. Nestle's press conferences are organized in such a way that one needs an invitation or one needs to register, and I'm not allowed in. Now, I was told by François-Xavier Perrault, the chief spokesperson, that I am not a journalist, I'm an activist. Nestle denounced me once in an article in the British Medical Journal, that is Nestle. François Xavier was quoted as saying, I'm not a journalist, I'm an activist because I defend breastfeeding. And they denounced the Courier as the last Marxist rag in Switzerland by way of denigrating me and saying I was worthless and my writing was worthless. The Courier wrote to Nestle, never received a response. One other thing, Hans-Jörg Renk, who was also a major spokesperson there for quite a while, used to tell me repeatedly, emphatically, Nestle is scrupulously in conformity with the WHO code. When I put him on the spot about violations throughout the world, he said, we are a vast, complicated organization. We cannot keep track of what our subsidiaries do. And I said, how can you claim then you are scrupulously observing the code if you don't know what your subsidiaries are doing? He said, we respect the code scrupulously. Nestle had the distinction of being the first corporation to sponsor a conference at the UN. It was held at Verchet-les-Blancs at their research center, and it was a US conference for women, of course, empowering women by setting them free from breastfeeding. Nestle, this was covered in part. Jean-Claude Bufflet here wrote a very good book called N comme Nestle, tracking back to the 1970s and the first battle. He also revealed how Nestle was the first great corporation to set up what they call corporate intelligence, tracking people who might be of a danger to Nestle, gathering information on them so that if ever they criticize the corporation, their name can be smeared. Thank you.
Just to pick up on this point that Nestle says it abides by the marketing requirements, I'd encourage you to look at IBFAN's reports, because a lot of the violations are just plain to see. Nestle labels its formula right now in some countries saying it is that it protects babies.
They are very powerful, this corporation. I'm director of the Center Europe Third World. It's a Swiss organization based in Geneva. And I think the first book published about Nestle was published in 1982, and it was called the Nestle Empire. And after this book and after this film, you can see that nothing has changed. I would just like to draw your attention on the fact that, unfortunately, the situation doesn't only concern baby formula milk or food, but transnational companies, corporations, have become very powerful, and they control every aspect of our life, be food, services, industry, information, practically all aspects of our life. And under these conditions, they have become very powerful, and they control even the governments, because more and more the commercials and trade agreements are adopted bilaterally or multilaterally, are always in favor of these big corporations. Even worse, some national jurisdiction took you 15 years to prove that you were right, just in order to prevent any legal disputes. Such a film is very important for the awareness building and for the information, but you have to go further and you have to commit yourself to fight against the domination of this big corporation. Thank you for your patience.
Merci de votre attention. Merci encore à Yasmine Motarjemi, à Syed
Yasmine
Aamir,
Motarjemi, Syed Aamir Raza, and Mike Riddy, and to the organizer also.